All right, welcome to Which Way From Here. I'm your host, Corinne. Unfortunately, Rachel can't join us today because she is on vacation, so you just get little me. But I'm really excited to introduce John Killian, the wonderful podcaster from XV Planet, right? Yeah. Is that how you say
That is
your
correct.
podcast?
Planis.
Okay, good.
Planis, not planet. Damn it, Janet. I love you. Well, we are hitting
You're
spooky
such a
seasons
theater
hard.
nerd.
I know. I really am. Actually, I have more to say about that. Remind me to say Rocky Horror, to talk about Rocky Horror later. Corinne, thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. And I'm sure we'll talk about why our first interview didn't show up.
Yeah, this is take two of this
Take two.
interview.
Yeah.
Yeah. Had me and
if things
technology
go buggy this time, then I'm going to be convinced that it's something that followed me back from Uinta.
because time is not linear, it was like not only did it not want you to do the lead up to your trip, wanted to erase all lead up, and then now it just doesn't want to be spoken about.
But we will get to that for sure.
Yes. Very cool. Okay, well, since we are redoing the first interview, let's start with basics. Who are you? What are you about? How do we get here?
Fair enough. Well, my name's John Killian. Most people call me Flood. That is my nickname long before I even became a podcaster or anything like that. I run a podcast called XV Planis. It is a podcast about strange and spooky stuff, but the thing that makes this a little bit different from other shows is we don't just talk about it. We actually put, as I often say, put boots on the ground and pursue it in the field. And so XV Planis kind of started as a basement side project of just talking about weird stuff. But then we decided to go out there and try the weird stuff. And that's when things got, well, they went from weird to really, really interesting. And
right?
Yeah. So XV Planis has now evolved. It's not just a podcast anymore. It's actually a network, a team of paranormal investigators, empaths, occultists, UFO people. We're trying to build a network of amazing people who are in touch with the stranger side of the universe.
Yeah.
And so the podcast itself is kind of a byproduct of it, I guess I would say. It's a way for us to document or journal the cases that we do and the places that we go. And I feel incredibly lucky that I've been able to build the network of people, the people that I call my parafamily. And the thing that XV Planis has become, which is a little bit more of an ideal than just a show,
Absolutely. Yeah. How long have you been doing the podcast?
I've been doing the podcast for we're about 3 years now. But I've been actively doing paranormal investigations for about 4. And I find it important to note that I never really was on the trend line with the whole paranormal investigation thing. I don't like ghost adventures. If you talk Zach Baggins to me, it's not going to be a fun conversation.
It'll be a hilarious one.
I mean, it would be a hilarious one, but we're not going to subject your listeners to that because it involves a whole lot of F-bombs and a whole, all right, yeah. So,
right.
What I want to get to, I want the term ghost hunter to go away, and I want parapsychology to come back, people. That's where I want him. I want us to start studying the consciousness, the science behind all of this. And I'm sure we'll go in deeper into that. But that's pretty much how we got here. Now, that's how I got there. Now, as far as we got here, that is all from a delightful little festival up in Canton, Ohio that we call Monster Fest. And wow, it was a monster of a fest.
So much fun. Much fun.
Yeah. So let's actually, before we go a little bit further, let's add a little context to that. So I met Corinne at Monster Fest in Canton, Ohio, and who were you there specifically to go fangirl over? Because I was there to
Uh,
fanboy over our boys and Astonishing Legends, Micah
it-
Hanks, Lyle, oh, of course, Rich Haddam was there,
yeah. No, I was there for Astonishing Legends, and definitely Rich Haddam.
hmm
Like the three of them together, was just like it was when they originally announced Monster Fest on Astonishing Legends. I was like, oh my God, it's in Ohio. Canton's not that far from Columbus. I texted Rachel and was like, hey, let's do this thing. It's not that expensive. Let's go VIP. Let's just go all out. And we got tickets immediately, like almost a year out, forgot about it. And then 2 weeks before the fest, Rachel was like, hey, aren't we supposed to be doing something? Like, holy shit.
Oh my God,
Like,
that is great. That's hilarious. But you know what? That type of chaotic moment almost perfectly describes the entire tone of that festival. Because this
right.
was it was the first time that they did that. And just to provide context here, the people who put on this festival, Monster Fest, is none other than Seth Breedlove of Small Town Monsters fame. Now, anybody who's listening to this who has a knack for the weird and the creepy, I'm sure that name
Oh,
rings a bell. Seth
mhm.
Breedlove is a brilliant documentary filmmaker. He's been doing series on all sorts of high strangeness for, I think, almost a decade now, right?
It's been at it a while.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And he's actually done so much that it's now kind of created its own gravitational well, and it has become its
Mhm.
own thing, its own community. And it's a beautiful thing because now they were able to do this festival, which was I
Awesome.
the thing that this is so hilarious. And you remember meeting Jill, right? Jill Weaver.
Uh-huh.
I was just talking to her right before I hopped on this call with you, and we were remarking about how amazed we were of the caliber of people who showed up to this festival, because
Yeah,
it's not your hobbyists, it is your diehard people, the people who actually have a legitimate interest in the strange and unexplainable.
absolutely. It was uh, like I couldn't tell that it was their first time. Like I knew it was the first go around, but it was so well organized. It was like you said, the caliber of people both participating, like the just the fans showing up,
hmm
and then the speakers were so well done. Like everything was just so well done. And I Rachel and I are not even that into cryptids. I like all weird. Is it weird? I'm into it. But cryptids are kind of lower on the list for me. But I
Understand.
wanted to go because of Sanchi Legends, but also for the experience. Like, show me why people are into cryptids. And I had amazing conversation, met some of the best human beings on the planet. And it's like, oh, this is like my tribe that I didn't realize that I've been missing out on for so long. Like, here are my people. We're all a bunch of weirdos and we're weirdos together. I love it.
Exactly. And it took one time for me stepping outside of the crowd to grab a smoke. Kids don't smoke. I'm trying to quit myself. But I step outside to feed my bad habit, and I have a chance encounter with you, and
Yes,
you and Rachel,
Rachel. Yeah.
and that immediately kicked off a conversation about the Sally House, and then it just
Yes.
turned into a weekends long conversation about all sorts of weird stuff. And folks, that's how we ended up here today.
And that's why friends doing this awesome episode. Yeah. Yeah. No, thanks for leading that context. There we go.
Can you
Oh,
tell
I
I've
can
been
tell
doing
it's
this for way too long?
thank God, because you can tell that I am not.
Oh, you guys are on it. You have the formula. You got
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Okay, so let's pivot a little bit. Do you have a defining moment in your life that you can kind of put your thumb on and be like, this is when I realized that there's more to existence, that suddenly like the paranormal, what we're calling the paranormal, but that the side of existence that is far more weird, far more interesting than we've been conditioned to believe, revealed itself to you?
Uh, Great question. I would honestly say I've had a series of them since I was a child.
Right.
Um, it's almost serendipitous that we're recording this while I'm here doing a visit in my hometown. I'm going to be here for a while to take care of some stuff for family and things like that. And it's given me an opportunity to kind of revisit some of the places that I had my first paranormal encounters. And most of them happened between the ages of 6 and 18 while I was in this strange little town, which I'm not going to mention now because I don't want you all to descend on it just yet. We're working on it. Um, so that was like the first wave. And then in my mid 20s, I had a couple of near death experiences, and those showed me some things that I can't quite shake yet. And
Mm-hmm.
kind of lets me know that there's another layer of reality beyond this. And then we move to the third wave, which is me taking an active and engaging interest in the paranormal, interacting with it, and literally having my mind blown. Like, I have seen things in the last 3 years that I am still struggling with. I'm still trying to make sense of. And I
Interesting.
don't regret any of those moments. But what I will say after doing this, like, and when I say actively, I mean not just going to haunted places, but when weird things start happening in the shadows, I walk towards them, that type of thing.
Right,
Um,
right.
I think I'm on a journey here to not only connect with all of it, but to turn it all on its head.
Mm.
I have a hypothesis brewing, and I'm going to hint a little bit about this during our conversation tonight. But before you even hit record, Corinne, you and I were talking about our experiences and things that we do when we're not here on the mic or on the camera talking to you lovely people. Um, but we've seen and experienced things that it kind of takes you to a place of, I don't have to prove anything to anyone. I already know. Like, I know that the phenomena is real. Now, here's the flip side of that coin for me. I believe the vast majority of the paranormal phenomena we talk about, whether it's cryptids, whether it's UFOs, whether it's ghosts, whether it's demons or jinns, I don't doubt the existence, but I think it's not what we think it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to believe that the vast majority of it is real. Maybe the phenomenon at whole is a singular thing, but it chooses to show itself to us in very
Mm-hmm.
limited ways, or in ways that only we personally can process and understand.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is what you and I connected on at Cryptid Fest. This idea of like um the the need for um this the use of the scientific method and the use of empirical evidence as a way to quote unquote prove the existence of anything does not apply to the phenomenon. It doesn't work. And it's so limiting that people are um, dismissing entire swaths of their own personal experiences, their own personal way of moving through the world, uh, and in such a way that it, like, and then they become rigid and limited in the way they think. And
Yeah.
so what's interesting is that when you start to play with the paranormal, which for me, like I said, I don't even like using that word because I think it's just what existence is, right? The phenomenon it's a fun way to talk about how there are just layers of reality
Yeah.
that we can play with. And I know like John Tenney talks about this a lot, where like the universe taps you on the shoulder and says, do you want to play? And I love that how he talks about that, because I agree that is kind of how it works, that we are all built with a sensitivity, with extra sensory perceptions that allow us to pick up on more subtleties that um, that tell us when something's a bit off, when something's not quite how we've been conditioned to believe what reality is supposed to be. And then every once in a while, you get punched in the face with it, right? And either way, it is your personal experience that is catered to you, your belief
Yeah.
systems, and what you think can and cannot be possible. And oftentimes it's something that causes you to pivot and question what you think can and cannot be possible, which is why paranormal is so jarring and interesting, and why people get sucked into that rabbit hole so intensely or reject it so intensely.
But I also
Anyway, so
like and I'm sure you'll agree with me on this, that there's two sides to that coin. When people get sucked into the paranormal, there's two paths that they go on. Ooh, I can make spooky money off of this, or
mm-hmm.
I can start to unravel the mysteries of the universe. And I'm definitely
Mm-hmm.
on the latter half of that equation.
Likewise,
And I
yeah.
know you are as well. Yeah. This is why we had such great conversations, and why this will probably happen pretty regularly. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, there's what I am starting to personally understand through my own research and my own experiences of doing all this stuff is that it's way weirder than we think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not so easily definable. At this point,
Yep.
I'm very, very hesitant to use terms like ghosts, aliens,
Mm-hmm.
UFOs,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. Um, because, and kids, everybody put on their tinfoil hats. I'll give you a few seconds here. You ready? Yeah. All right. You got them on? Good and snug? Cool. I think over the next 5 years or so, we're going to receive a lot of information that is going to challenge our perception of reality.
Oh yeah.
And some of that will come from things like James Webb Space Telescope, and some like that giant question mark. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm. Sure did.
The universe is
Sure did.
throwing up a question mark at us. Come on. Like,
It is.
I'm NASA will have 1,000 explanations for that, but come on, the universe is screwing with us, really. But
Universe has a sense of humor. Yeah.
exactly.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
This is why everybody should read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy before anything
Yes.
else. Yeah.
Yes.
Because I do truly believe that things are going to get a bit way weirder and wackier as things move forward. So you have
Yeah.
that side of the coin, and the other side of the coin, we are now at the point that our government is openly talking about interdimensional beings, and like we're entering sci-fi territory. Star Trek is about to become reality.
Uh, I mean, I hope it's going to be the Star Trek version, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think we're still a good 50 to 100 years away from that whole money. We don't use money thing, you know.
Yeah, um, okay, and I don't want to get too down this rabbit hole because we have way too many, like a lot of other things I'd rather talk about, like your experience in
Sure.
Utah. But just to like touch on it a little bit, uh, I can't help but to view anything that comes through like government through a poli-sci lens, um, which is my degree. And like anytime I see a dog and pony show about anything, it's like, okay, what is going on in the background that this is being used as a distraction? And how desperate do they have to be that they're pulling out aliens in order to try and regenerate fear. And how funny is it that the vast majority of people looked at that and were like, eh.
Yeah. No. The difference here this time, this is not the dog and pony show. This is actually happening. And I'm gonna flat out say right here, everybody who's listening, what are we at 2027? So in 3.5 to 4 years, I think our world is going to look very, very different. And if I'm wrong about that, I'll buy y'all a drink and you can make fun of me for one round. But I know I really believe this is it. Like this is actually happening. And whether or not you buy into it, what's happening in Congress right now with the whole UAP discussion, this is not a here's the shiny keys, look at it moment. We're talking about 3 very high ranking former military service members who are now coming out under oath saying these things are happening, this is what's going on. And that is a game changer. Most people don't really want to believe that. Everybody wants to raise an eyebrow or point out all the various different faults. But mark my words, if we end up having another hearing before November ends, the snowball effect is going to become very, very visible for a lot of people. So we'll see.
I agree with everything you just said. So I guess I should be more specific. When I say dog and pony show, I'm not saying that this isn't real, that this isn't happening, and that this isn't legitimate. It is all of those things. And oftentimes when these things get pulled out, it's with a specific purpose to get the public to behave in a certain way. And what's interesting to me is that if we've reached the point that now we are having conversations about aliens and interdimensional beings being legitimized by government, that is with a specific purpose to get people thinking a type of way that is going to reinforce the system in which it created the doubt to begin with.
Get them acclimated.
So exactly. And that's why I'm not skeptical of whether or not this is going to change things. Absolutely, it is. I am skeptical about the intentions behind doing this to begin with, because we see like this is just the old playbook playing itself out, but now it's with aliens, which for like my sci-fi loving heart is it's hilarious and awesome, and it's in service of military. It's in service of, again, reinforcing a system that was designed to make us feel powerless. And now we're going to feel powerless towards things like interdimensional beings. And that shit
Right.
pisses me off.
Well,
So
no, okay.
that's what I mean by that.
No, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they can easily spin that back in various different ways. But no, I really do think we're here. We're at the impasse. Like something big is happening, and we're
Yeah.
not going to get the full picture of it for a couple of more years, but it is happening. It is actually happening. And
Yeah.
I think ultimately, like
Fascinating.
I said, it's really going to be more of we're not alone in the universe. That's actually pretty easy to swallow. Reality is not what you think it is. Little tougher pill to swallow,
Yeah,
So it's going
yeah,
to take some people a long weekend to get over this.
yeah. I'm curious to see, because for me, this is a last desperate attempt to hang
Yes.
on. And I think it's going to massively backfire. This is a break glass in case of emergency scenario for a crumbling system. In fact, the system that we've known, that we grew up and got conditioned into, is almost gone. We're just seeing the death throes of it. And now, like, we're at the point where, like, now they're having to admit that reality is far more layered, textured, weird, crazy, scary, and extremely amazing than we were conditioned to believe. And now people are going to either go down with that sinking ship, just trying to hang on to what they knew, or like, oh shit, if they've been lying to us the whole time about this, what else have I been lied to about? And what else is possible? And more
Yep.
importantly, what can I do?
Mhm.
And I think far more people are actually, I know far more people are reclaiming their power, claiming their abilities. And like, we're in such a threshold point right now. And I am excited about it. And also, I know that with this comes a whole lot of chaos and a whole lot of harm to people who are living unconsciously. And I'm just like, ooh, I feel really bad for the people who are like
Going to be a
really
rough ride.
glued in. Yeah, it's going to be a rough ride for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So fascinating.
No, you and I are very much on the same mindset then, because like ever since I even tapped into the paranormal, just in general, as soon as I had that first experience, it was immediately followed by another two that immediately shifted my perception of the world and reality as a whole. And now, fast forward, 3 years later, I am starting to see the seams of what we call our reality literally starting to like undo themselves. Things are about to
Yes.
get real weird, folks. And I've
Yeah.
been saying that for a few years. Nobody believes me. But then I turned around to a friend of mine the other day and did you know that they're having a conversation right now in Congress about non-human intelligences? My friend turns to me and he just looks at me dead in the eye and goes, "You son of a bitch. Everything you said was right. I'm gonna go live in the mountains." I'm like, "Yeah, you should probably go live in the mountains. Go for it." But no, yeah, like I think a lot of us have been sensing that there's definitely like we're coming to an impasse, and I don't mean that as like some sort of oh I'm a doomsayer, and I don't mean that as a conspiratorial theorist or anything like that. It's pretty
Mhm.
obvious. I mean, you look at the
Yep.
state of the planet, the level of unrest that we're having right now, the absolute chaos society and politically that we have. You have
Yep.
we are on the precipice of, and any of you climate change deniers out there, I'm sorry, just kiss my grits. Like, you're so wrong because we're actually at that moment. There's a really good possibility that that current, the Atlantic current that actually controls a lot of our weather system, is about to go belly up. And when that happens, it's gonna get weirder.
Mhm.
So I have no definition for anything of what's really going to happen in the future other than it's going to get weirder. It's going to get
Yep.
really, really weird
Yep.
and rough on a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and that's how like you you can't have great change without shaking up and chaos. Like there's a place for all of that. And it requires death. And and on a large scale, that can mean loss of life, and it will, unfortunately. But also means loss of who you thought you were. It means letting go of all preconceived notions, anything that hasn't been serving you, anything that was put into you by other people. Like that's all going to get shaken loose. And either you let it go or you go crashing down with it while trying to grip onto it. Yeah, it's rough. It's
Yeah.
rough stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And a lot of us can
cool.
kind of see this on the horizon. I'd like to be more of an optimist and say that, yeah, we'll be able to overcome it. But the harsh truth of it
We
is,
will.
I mean, we will as a whole, but it's going to be a
Yeah,
rough ride. Yeah.
gonna be rough ride. Like so
Okay.
saying all of that.
Enough
I was
depression
gonna say,
stuff.
saying all of
Yes.
that, I see it as a positive. I actually see all of this as a huge positive. We're getting what we want. We're getting rid of everything that has been systemic oppression and limitation, all that. That's all going. That's the conditioning. That's the shit that we never wanted to begin with and didn't realize that we were just born into it. We're getting our freedoms back, but this is what it takes to get that, you know? Anyway,
Hmm.
so yeah, that's the positive side of it. Anywho, I agree.
I feel
Let's
like there's
shift.
the line for a whole other podcast brewing here, but we'll talk about this off the camera. Yeah. All right.
Oh man, John and Corinne go full abstract. Yes, I'm into it.
They're not ready for it. That's going to end badly for them. For us, it'll be fine.
That
But
would be amazing.
now
No, I mean,
we're
I think
fine.
people be into it.
God, I love
All
talking with
right.
you.
Thanks. And likewise. Okay, but yeah, I agree. Let's shift because I want to hear about Utah. You've been teasing this for weeks at this
Oh
point.
God. All right. Okay. So first, because there's a lot of meat and potatoes that we left out because the previous attempt at this kind of failed. So
Yeah.
I've been on a lot of investigations. I've seen a lot of things. I've experienced a lot of things, and I do my best to document, make sense out of them, add it into the equation that I'm writing in my head. Well, I might get sued for this. I don't know. There's a ranch in northern Utah that we're not going to talk about because we don't want the History Channel coming banging on our doors. So I'm just going to leave that name out of it. And I
Is
will
it that
say,
bad? Are they that exploitative?
we'll talk
Fuck
about that
me.
here in a second because every social media account I have was attempted to get hacked into after I made one post. So, yeah. Yeah. All right. So I went out to Utah to a magical little place called Uinta Basin. Now, if Uinta Basin rings a bell for any of your listeners, it's probably because you have the History Channel there and you're watching a certain show that we're not going to talk about much. Or maybe we will and see if they, see if I can poke the bear again, but hopefully they'll leave you alone. Now,
Probably. I have like 10 listeners.
all right. But trust me, that'll change very, very soon. Now, what I can tell you about Uinta Basin and the subject at hand is this infamous ranch that everybody often references. Sure, it's well known for having a high level of high strangeness. All sorts of weird stuff has been documented there for well over 30 to 40 years. We've had government officials taking the place over for a while and looking into it. So it's weird.
Hmm.
But the thing is, for me, and my theory is, it's not just that particular ranch, it is
Yeah,
the
no, of course not.
whole of the Uinta Basin, the
Yeah,
whole basin. It is a magical
100%.
place. It is very, very weird. It almost like when you're standing in the middle of the Uinta Basin, you almost feel like you're in the wastelands between crossing two countries or
Mm-hmm.
two different worlds, even two different dimensions. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's otherworldly out there. And I don't mean that as a pun or a joke. I mean that sincerely. Like my team went out there, and here's the thing: the infamous ranch in question, there is a public campground right next to it, and so that's where we set up shop. We took over a few campsites. We set up all the equipment, and for 4 nights, we hung out right next to one of the most supposedly weirdest places in the United States, if not the world. And we saw some weird things. We had some weird experiences. And holy crap. Like I so what do you want to know? Do you want to just walk through the whole thing? Like I'll do a
Sure do.
condensed version here. If you want to hear the full version, you'll have to listen to my show because we're going to do like a 4-part series on this. So
Yes.
there were 6 of us. We set up camp in the UFO Valley campground. Shout out to y'all. What a great spot, and thank you for the hospitality. It is right next to said spooky famous ranch.
Hmm.
And for 3 nights, we performed some light experiments. We pulled out the full spectrum cameras, night vision goggles. We caught some anomalies. And caught some weird shadows. Now, on the 4th night, I saw something that I can't wrap my head around, and neither can anyone else. And more importantly, magically, everybody around 12:30 at night, everybody all of a sudden got super tired, went to sleep. I was the only one awake,
Ah.
and the fire magically disappeared, and I lost 2 hours of my time. I have no idea what happened. When I go
Oh.
back and look at all the video that I took, I am looking at things that I don't remember recording. And it's a whole bunch of lights in the sky, most of them moving in ways that should not be possible. But I managed to capture this. And I will share one clip with you if you want to post it to like add just for context to this episode. I will share a
Yeah.
small clip with you. Um, but it was weird. I've never experienced like true missing time before, but I can't explain where 2 hours went. So we have the campground set up. We are right next to the infamous mesa that is often spoke about on said History Channel show.
Hmm.
You know, if you say the name of the ranch, they might actually come after you, which is why I'm not doing that. Yeah. So
Yes. Fucking. Anyway, continue.
that last night, I lose 2 hours of time, yet I managed to witness two incidents that happened just beyond the mesa. When I was reviewing the video footage for one of them, I saw something that I remembered recording, but I saw something in the video footage that I don't remember taking with the naked eye. And I believe that's the one that I sent to you. The
Yeah.
green the
Yeah.
green
Yeah.
one that bounces all over the
Hmm.
place.
Yep.
I don't remember taking that. And anytime that I did take any video out there, we could see that main loop, but we saw nothing else beyond that. So something weird is going on.
Yeah. Yep.
And I posted a small clip of this on my Twitter. And within 24 hours, my Facebook, my Instagram, my Twitter, everything related to XV Planis was attempted to be hacked into. Everything.
Oh.
Now, I'm not saying it's them, but that's awfully convenient, right?
Yeah. 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 And it was, to me, the fact that it was just an attempt and it didn't go all the way through was meant to get your attention without going like full on is my conspiracy theory thoughts on
I
that.
don't know. Yeah, we'll reel that one back in and talk off camera about that. But
Yeah.
yeah. So the reason that I went out to Uinta Basin is not for said famous ranch, is because I really do believe that the entirety of the Uinta Basin is a very potent focal point for a lot of these stranger energies. Call it
Liminal.
paranormal, what you want. What I call it is levels of energy that we do not have the technology to quite document yet.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's like a reality is soft in that space.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's actually a good way of putting it. Because the
Yeah.
more I dive into this, like it's if somebody talks to me about ghosts, what's more likely that the spirit of somebody is still existing after all of these years, or is it more likely that we're evolving and our perception of time is changing and it's allowing us momentary glimpses into another timeline?
Mm-hmm.
That could
That's
not
one
only
thing.
explain ghosts, that can explain UFOs, that can explain
Mhm.
cryptids. Like we're seeing different points in time and these different entities coming out of them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. And I think and it's multiple things because it's yes and instead of just either or. And like I think when we use a word like ghost, that is a pulp culture term to describe an ineffable experience that we are interpreting through our nervous system, trying to make, sense of something that we have not been given information in the way that we've been raised to understand. And so, like, I often use the term earthbound instead of ghost because, um, there are remnants of people, but it's not a one-to-one, copy of the person. It is a remnant of something like an addiction or maybe a fear, grief,
Even
loss,
a moment, a
obsession, a
particular moment.
moment.
Yeah.
Exactly. That it's got caught in the energetic space and is having an effect on that space. And like you
Yeah.
said, is of the time space coordinate that moment happened, and it's affecting things and people around it. And so like when I do my clearings, I'll often run into these things and they're easily cleared because it is a copy. It is just a blip, an energetic blip that got stuck and is feeding off of where it's at in order to maintain itself because there's some consciousness there. And you release it out of the system so it can get reintegrated back the way it should be. And there's so much of that everywhere feeding off of people. And that's just one type of these things. There's all everything else, and we're all in like the use of the word ghost as a catch-all phrase just so that we haven't been trained to have discernment with the intricacies of what we're encountering, because sometimes
Yeah.
it's a remnant of a person, sometimes it's a fucking entity. Like, it's kind of crazy.
Well, that's the thing is like people like you and I, we're now starting to enter what I refer to as new science territory. Like these are sciences that are there. We just haven't put the time and the effort in to explain them yet
Yeah.
because certain parties who hold power think they're scoffable or laughable or whatever.
Right.
We know that's not the case. But I think that this is what I see happening with the worldwide paranormal community right now is there is a massive boom of interest into all of this stuff. It's not just you and me. It is worldwide. I'm sure you've noticed it too. Like
Yes.
anytime you go out, I guarantee you by the end of the night, you'll find one person who says they've had something weird and they want to talk about it.
Yep.
And I love that. It's great. It's because I do honestly think that we're evolving. And the
Agreed.
further I look into this, like, what if that's what all of this is? Like, every single bit of it, it's all the same thing.
Hmm.
We're just viewing different perceptions of it. Or if Jacques Vallée is right. Are you familiar with Jacques Vallée? Okay.
Absolutely.
So Passport to Magonia, when he starts talking about the Fae folk and the concept that these supernatural, bizarre encounters between these strange beings and humanity have been going on forever. It's
Mhm.
just that the vocabulary changes and our understanding of science evolves.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, yeah. So what if all these things have been popping in here the whole time? What if it is all the same thing? What if the reason that we, humanity as a whole, are starting to take more interest and notice in this is because we are evolving?
Mm-hmm.
What
Hmm.
if this is the next step, a step of evolution, not of the physical, but of the consciousness of the mind?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No flesh and bone needed, you know?
Exactly. And I would even challenge the idea of evolving, just as a fun thought of experiment. Because could
Mm,
be any other. It's like, how are we using the language? What if we always have had this ability? And in fact, I would say that we all have had this ability, and it's not that um we need to evolve, it's that we need to get rid of the things that blocked us to begin with. And that
yeah.
this isn't about us becoming something better. This is about the deconstruction of everything that stopped us from being in our full power to begin with.
No, yeah, yeah. You works both ways, and actually, I like that one better. It seems a little bit more empowered. So let's roll with that. Let's
Yeah,
roll with that.
right?
I like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I find that that thought like switch for me was like, oh shit. Like we need to stop looking outside of ourselves to become this supposedly better, more, I don't know, optimal person. We already are that. Let's get rid of all the shit that made us feel small and kept us contained. And I think that's exactly what's happening is that like with like as above, so below. So as within, so without. And so as we watch the external structures break down, the internal structures that those reflect are also breaking down. The
Hmm.
structures of limitation, belief, belief
Yeah, the very
of
things that were blocking us in the first place from expanding our consciousness in our mind.
boom.
And and that's the thing. And to go back to weird ranch that we're not going to talk about in northern Utah. If you don't get it by now, I can't help you. But the same people who originated the study group there. So like we're talking when Robert Bigelow and the government actually got involved and stuff like that. There were some really, really impressive runs of tests there. And what I find most fascinating is one Dr. Calm Keller. And if nobody knows that name, I encourage you to look it up. Calm Keller. It's an Irishman, really fine guy, one of the smartest minds. He might be our next Jacques Vallée, just with an Irish accent. And what he pointed out earlier this year, I think, is going to be one of the most important keys of unlocking some of these mysteries in the next few years. And that is, and here's the thing, he still has like non-disclosure agreements with national security set, so he can only say so much, right? But the way that he put it is, there is one word that everybody needs to focus on a little bit more right now, and nobody's really paying attention to it. You need to think a little bit less about apparitions and nuts and bolts craft and start thinking about the word consciousness.
Yeah.
That's a huge tell to me. It is as big of a tell as the fact that said ranch that we're not going to explicitly reference was once owned, operated, and run by none other than Robert Bigelow, or as I like to call him, Bobby Bigelow, because I like to think that even though we've never met, I know enough about him. I'm stalker
Best
level, so you
friends.
can, yeah, absolutely. So Bobby Bigelow, richest man in, or one of the richest men in America, spent the vast majority of his fortune on developing really, really interesting scientific advancement workshops. So you had the Bigelow Institute for no, that's the last one. Bigelow Aerospace. You had God, there was another one. Bigelow Aerospace. Oh, I'm sorry. That's what it was. Bigelow Aerospace actually, I believe, ended up folding in or becoming part of ATIP, which was America's UFO task force.
Yes.
So after studying and owning Skinwalker Ranch for 15 plus years, this guy shuts it all down. He sells the ranch. He sells Bigelow Aerospace. He sells, that was the other one, the National Institute for Discovery Sciences. Gives them all up. And he proceeds to take every cent that he got from those sales to open the Bigelow Institute for Consciousness Studies.
Just like the Monroe Institute.
They know something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's something to it. Like, I already know this is like this level of existence. We don't end here. We keep going. I'm not sure exactly where it goes or what happens next, but nah, we're not done here.
Yeah.
But whatever is going on, like, they know something. They tap into something in particular at that northern Utah ranch that I hope you save the video for that. Every time I have to go into announcer status, I will be ever so over dramatic.
That might
Okay,
be why I
now I'm
lose the
done.
video again.
No, that's because I went
All
too
I can hear
far and
is
you're
like, shut
ashamed of
this
me.
shit down.
No, that's fine. No, it's okay to say you're ashamed of me. It's fine. But no, like, Bigelow knows something. Our government knows something, and it is weirder than lights in the sky. It is weirder than little green men. I really think that we're going to be light years beyond that over the next few years, and we're going to find out how truly flimsy, flexible, and foldable our reality really is.
Oh, yeah. we will again another conversation that we're going to stay for John and Corinne go from scratch. The collapse, which we are currently experiencing,
Wait, say that again.
because collapsing of time, structure of time itself,
Yes.
that we are currently experiencing, because if you've noticed, to have sped up exponentially. And that's not just an aging thing. Time really has sped up exponentially. Isn't that fun? We'll save that for another time.
No, actually, that's a huge one, and that's one that I will actually reach out to Micah Hanks and see if he will come in on this, because if we get him and Tim McMillan on this conversation, this is one of the big things, man. I'm telling you, is the further we go down this rabbit hole collectively, and there is like a global interest now, whether you're talking about things in the sky or things coming from the ground, people are paying more attention now. I don't think it's a coincidence that we're having UFO hearings in our Congress. There is a global rise of paranormal interest, and AI is skyrocketing forward at the same time.
Oh yeah.
The,
Ooh.
and based on what we know and what we understand in recent studies on things like quantum mechanics, time is rubbery as hell. I think everything is about to get way wackier than we can possibly imagine. And I personally hope I am living in the sci-fi movie next year.
You're in it now, my
I know, I really am. You're true. I've had missing time. I've seen shadow people. I have had apparitions choke me. I have had things follow me home. Ever since I got back from Uinta Basin, I've had a tiny little red UFO showing up above my house every other night.
oh my gosh.
Anytime I try to take a video of it, gone. The minute
Well,
I
yeah,
even reach for my camera, gone. Like it
right, of
knows.
course. Yeah,
But
yeah,
this
because
thing has
consciousness.
been taunting me. Consciousness. Thank you.
You know, I I hear it like as a professional clearer, that makes me want to hear your entire face. But I know, but also like that should not be doing that to you. Like,
Oh no,
ah,
no, it should. Okay, so there's two sides of that coin. I didn't tell you about the wackiest freaking part of leaving Uinta Basin, right? So
holding out on me, John.
no, I was just saving for a dramatic moment, I swear. Um, so you know how people say if you go to famous ranch, SW Ranch,
Uh-huh.
things might follow you home. Or if you go to haunted places, things might follow you home. I have
Yeah,
had so much crap follow me home at this point. I don't even bat an eye at it. I
right.
have just now gotten to the point that I have to openly state anytime I get back from an investigation. If you came here, I'll allow it. But I swear to God, if you move my car keys, you're done. Because this happened. Like whenever I got
Believe it.
back from the Sally house, whatever followed me home would do weird things with my car keys. I found them in the toilet one day. I found them in the freezer another day. I found them in the car while it was locked. Like it really messes with him. But
Right.
when I left Uinta Basin, I I need solitude. Like I'm one of those people who like I need a lot of alone time. I really do because I got a lot of stuff going on. I need to be able to take time to write. I need to take time to heal and focus on me. I'm sure you understand.
Sure do.
So I make my stop at Memphis, Tennessee, coming back from Uinta Basin, and I stop off at a friend's house to pick up my car and say goodbye to my last team member. And I hop in my car, and for the first time in a week, I'm alone. I'm alone. And it's beautiful. And I put on a little bit of Orbital, some good mellow music, and I start driving along, and I'm taking a deep breath. And yeah, 3 more hours. I'll be back in my bed, finally get caught up on a week of hardly sleeping at all. And then I hear out of my right ear, like somebody was riding shotgun and leaned over into my right ear and whispered, "Murder." I am not shitting you. Now, here's the funniest part about it. As soon as that happens, I immediately whip my head around like, do you have any idea who in the fuck you're talking to? Shut up. I am tired. I worked 14-hour days for 3 weeks straight before I even went on this trip. I am here for me, not for you. Shut up or get out of my car. And as soon as I do that, this is what I hear. And nothing after that. But it still followed me home, and it still interacted with me, but not in a trickstery kind of way. It didn't screw with me. It didn't move my keys. Instead, what it did, it would do weird things like send me messages on my TV through the subtitles, go outside.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then
And
you
so
would see the light.
the little red UFO. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So this stuff works in really weird ways, but let that
And
be a great story for all of your listeners, that if anything weird follows you home and they make you feel uncomfortable, whip your head around in the direction you just heard that voice and you tell them, shut up.
yeah. Well, I'm teaching all listeners how to clear. And so go energetic protocol and release that stuff out of your field because they're feeding on you. And you do not want that. Because they're fun stories and it makes you feel to have those experiences.
Yeah.
And I like really honest that stuff, you don't want it lingering because it is feeding off of you, takes you down. And I just honestly am of the opinion that it needs to be cleared out, reintegrated back into the earth. It shouldn't be here. Like if it's feeding, if it's gotta go. If it's trying to invoke here as a way to spike your energy, gotta go. Mm-mm.
But that's the thing. I've been doing this for so long. I know the games and I know
Mm-hmm.
how they work. And if
Right.
any other time I would have played along and put them in their place, but I was
Mm-hmm.
so like, I have real world shit to deal with. So when this thing
Right.
tried to turn to talk to me, my response was, sit down and shut up. I gotta go home. I have things to do.
Yeah.
Hush.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's your
But it's
choice if you
not
want
so
to.
easy to do that. And but that is the thing, is I personally believe, and this is just me, is that your willingness to let these things in as much as you let them in is what can be potentially damaging. And personally, I know my limits and I know where it stops. And that's why when that happened, my response was, shut up.
Mhm.
You don't own this. You don't own my moment. But it is not so easy. So I'm the first to admit to anybody who's listening out there, if you have weird things happening to you and they keep provoking you and pushing you, then yeah, definitely reach out to somebody. But after you've gone through the rigmarole as much as I have, you do kind of know how to, like, it's God, I feel like I'm about to sound like my mother. You got to know when you got to put your foot down and say, you stop that.
Yeah. No. Agreed. Me, regular energetic practice of clearing out. So that stuff it gets poofed. It, it's gotta go. I'm really for me, and here's why I'm saying this because to be I would want those experiences of something like moving my car keys just to have like a thrill of like yeah, like look at that's so cool. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, there's like a lot of stuff around that is feeding off of us.
Yep.
And some of it doesn't intend a mosquito, it's just simply doing it. Um, but yet can still and goes my curiosity goes like if we clear out all of this lower frequency stuff, because a lot of stuff is frequency and it's no longer supported by the earth as continue to be as we even resonate. Yeah, again, John and Corinne go full up.
Mm.
We'll get to that point.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of this stuff is no longer, a lot of this stuff is only continuing to exist because of tourism, like ghost tourism. And then it's just, you know, it
Feeding the
happens to be
tulpa.
in its feeding the tulpa, belief systems, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And because the earth is no longer supporting it, it's far easier to put stuff out of existence, which again is where I come in and where my work has been leading me, because I've been dealing with some pretty high level entities lately, and it's been bananas, completely absorbed back into yada yada. I'll go into that in other podcast. But
Yeah.
what I'm curious about is we get to the point where the majority of the is cleared out. What is going to show up then? Because we're caught in a whole lot of low stuff that's feeding off of us and causing us to be like, "Mrr." If we're suddenly reaching a much higher frequency, full energetic economy, as my friend Amanda calls it, is online. Our perceptions are fully online. Our consciousness is fully what it is. We understand how to be time and reality. What will show up then? That's what I'm curious about. And I think that would be far more fun than continuing to like grind out these lower level entity stuff. Like, let's be honest.
I think that's a part 2 to this conversation that we should have in a couple of months, because we're going to talk about a few things after we hang up that might actually directly speak to this. So,
Hell yeah.
yeah, all right,
Oh,
all
I
right, all
love
right,
it.
all right.
I love it. Our new podcast is already forming.
What's that?
I said podcast already forming.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. Oh, I mean, I say obviously this is going to
Yeah.
be an ongoing conversation between the two of us, and I'll pull you on to my show here before too long to talk a little bit more
Oh, yeah.
about this, especially by the end of the season. So y'all will come to the holiday party. I already talked to you about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll have that set up for sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about we've already teased several things. You are gonna pull about your Uinta Basin. That's in, is that already recorded and releasing? You'll have to forgive me. I'm so busy
Oh no,
on my
you're
feed.
I'm right there with you. So the way the rest of the season is going to roll out for XV Planis is next week I'm going to be debuting a series on our investigation of the Rhodes Hotel in Atlanta, Indiana, which is hilarious. It is,
Can't wait.
I don't know, it's a prohibition party spot. So it was full of all the people that Omar Austin Spare would spend time with at the bars. Best of the people, right?
Oh yeah.
Maybe a couple of appearances by Al Capone and some other notable gangsters.
Ooh.
After that, we're going to talk about a little slice of haunted North Carolina for a couple of episodes. And I'm not going to share what that is just yet, but I will say that I had the opportunity to be the first paranormal investigator to ever go look at some of these properties. And there's something truly special about them. So I'm looking forward
Cool.
to
Can you
sharing that with everybody.
Eastern or Western North Carolina?
It would be in Wake Forest, North Carolina, in particular. So,
Ooh.
yeah, and
Okay.
the finale. I guess I get to plant the seed here. All right, the finale
Yeah.
for this season, season 3, is going to end with a multi-part series on the Uinta Basin. We're going to talk a lot about the history of it. Sure, we'll mention the famous ranch, but again, I think the ranch is a symptom to a much larger thing.
Hmm.
So we're going to talk about the Uinta Basin as a whole, the history behind it, the folklore behind it, the Native American beliefs behind it, and then we're going to talk about our experience. And then this season is going to end with me um, presenting my hypothesis, and that will change everything for how this moves forward.
Oh, fun.
Oh yeah, no, everything is about to change. We're definitely gonna start veering away from "ooh, I'm a ghost hunter" type of investigations. I think I'm on to something here. like I said earlier, the phenomena is real. It is very
Mhm.
real. I've experienced it in multiple ways, but I don't think it is what we as individuals think it is. I think it's a little bit weirder. And I think we need to
Yeah,
start folding in concepts of quantum physics and consciousness studies into this in order to truly make sense of it. And I think if we do that, if we make those efforts, then we might actually be able to complete a circuit here that will give us a broader view of the universe as a whole. At least that's my
yeah.
theory, and it's way more intense than that. I'm actually I'm 34 pages into a scientific paper talking about this stuff, so things are definitely about to change. Yeah,
Wow. Wow. That's
I don't.
cool. That's really, really cool.
No, well, you know what? No, it is cool because it is cool to be a nerd, kids. It
Yes.
really is.
It's way more fun.
It is.
Way more. That's why I
Better
don't like,
conversations.
right? When you embrace the weird, you get to choose. You can either be chick who thinks there's just what you feel like, and how bad is that? Or can embrace the bananas existence that constantly taps us on the shoulder and have a good time with it as long as you don't allow it to take you too far off the path where you go into psychosis.
Yeah, but what happens when the banana side of the equation starts giving you more? And that's where we're at right now. It's like the reality of the situation is trying to tip us into crazy. You know what? I'm here for it. I just need to make sure that everybody else is along for the ride. Otherwise, I'm going to be really lonely. You know? Actually, no, I won't be that lonely. I'm good with solitude. But yeah.
It sounds like things such as house with you, you're never really alone. So
That's true. Yeah. As long as we got weirdos like us, we're never really alone, right?
100%. Oh man.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and doing version 2 of our interview. And I'm really like poofed out of existence for what
Oh
it's
yeah,
been.
absolutely. I'm really really sad that your listeners are not going to be able to hear that epically well planned way that I talked about. You asked me where I was going before I went to Uinta, and I had to do this whole tiptoe around. I am going to a place that I believe Art Bell would have called the Great American Southwest to do strange things.
Josh.
And I you're to Rachel's just like, you'd make a great diplomat. I'm like, I know, and I don't want to go into politics, so I'm not doing that.
Yeah, there were
Well,
a lot of
Corinne,
gems that unfortunately went away, but
always an absolute blast to hang out with you. We'll definitely get you over on XD Planis here pretty soon,
I
and
love it.
um, I'm sure that we can come up with some fun and creative collaborations in the upcoming months
Oh,
to get interesting. Yeah.
get, get real weird for those people who are like existing time collapsing. Do say more. Fuck yeah, those are our people.
Let's get weird. Absolutely. Yeah, we can get weird. Love you so
Awesome.
much, my
Love
friend. Thank you so much for
you.
having me. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
let me know when this comes out. I'll be sure to share it with everybody and all of you who are listening. You should probably not listen to me, but if you're dying to, you can.
You should. You absolutely should go over there and check out his stuff. It's
You
exciting.
should not encourage bad habits in these fine people, but as the little devil in your left shoulder says, you should say more. No, no.
Right?
All right, Corinne, I love you so much.
Love you.
Rachel, I'm
Thank
going to
you.
pack you on a guilt trip the next time I talk to you because you missed it. But
Right.
she can give me
She'll be there for the
whatever.
next time.
You better believe it. All right, my friend. Love you to pieces. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.